Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Akash Show. My name is Dr. Akash Bajaj, and I am a triple board certified physician focusing on rituals and routines to keep you resilient and robust. Now, today, guys, I want to talk to you about something important that you can apply to all aspects of your life, and that, my friends, is discipline and willpower. These are more intertwined and related than one may believe, and we're going to break this down a little bit today very simply to hopefully allow you, by the end of this video, to really focus your discipline and willpower in a way that will allow you to truly make changes and achieve results, and importantly, to develop the habits that you're trying to do. So getting into this now, we've talked a little bit about discipline in the past, but willpower's component is incredibly crucial. Now, willpower is basically our ability to focus on a task and force ourselves to do or not do something. If you look deeper at the research on willpower that's out there, and there's quite a bit out there, what you will begin to notice is willpower is like a muscle, and a muscle that can get exhausted or fatigued. So the key is really to apply willpower at the optimal time when you have a lot of willpower to apply, and to focus it and selectively point it in a direction to allow you to pursue a habit. Now, this is all very kind of word salad and word soup, but at the end of the day, it's very simple. If you're trying to develop a habit, improve yourself in some fashion, physically, psychologically, emotionally, professionally, personally, whatever the case may be, chances are you are looking to develop a certain habit, right? And at the end of the day, we are the habits that we pursue. All of us collectively, our personalities, our interactions, our overall essence and being of who we are really stems from our habits. Think about everybody that you know that maybe you respect. You probably respect them because they have a certain set of habits. Think about the people that you don't necessarily respect. You might not respect them because they have a different set of habits. Maybe when you're looking at yourself and deep inside, only you can answer this question, you respect or don't respect certain aspects of yourself. Maybe it's because there's certain habits or things or actions that you do or don't do that you wish were different, right? So how do we change that? How do we really build the habits that we want to build in order to become the person that we want to become? Okay, well, let's break this down very simply, okay? So historically, if you look at people that are very successful, their level of success leaves clues. Success in general leaves clues. Let's take, for example, Michael Phelps. So in 2004, Michael Phelps won 6 gold medals and 2 bronze medals. And then in 2008, he received a record 8 medals in Beijing, putting him as the most decorated Olympian of all time. But this is interesting. Michael Phelps, when he was a kid, when he was an adolescent, he was considered to be somebody who had ADHD and didn't have any focus and was just unable to focus on anything. So how does a person like that, who's basically, all over the place, develop the discipline and the skill and the focus to then become the most decorated Olympian of all time? Well, let's take a closer look. When he was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, his teacher actually said something to him like, Michael can't be quiet, he's not gifted, he will never be able to focus on anything. Now, this is the Michael Phelps who then went on to become one of the most focused people out there and become quite a decorated Olympian. Now, what was Michael Phelps' secret? What is the secret to a lot of these highly successful people? The answer to that is selected discipline. Now, the trick with selected discipline is to choose the right habit and just bring enough discipline to it to make that habit stick. That's it, guys. Once you establish that habit, once that habit begins to stick, then that now becomes a new part of who you are, and it's much easier to continue that habit moving forward than it is to try to build it. It's much, much harder in general, and keep this in mind, to build and create a habit initially than it is to establish and maintain it. And for those of us that are physically active and physically fit and we're going to the gym, we can all probably relate to this, right? It's much harder when you start working out a body part that maybe you haven't worked out, or you're trying to train or get gains on or whatever. But once you get to a point where you've achieved the level that you desire, maintaining it tends to be easier. So the key is really to bring that selected discipline to the proper habit, to establish that habit, and then maintain it going forward. That process of creating that habit is the hardest part of the journey, and maintaining it is actually much easier, but equally as important. Also keep this in mind. Once you establish a habit, once you get to the point of establishing a habit and maintaining it, now, because it's easier, you would now have access to more willpower to then selectively focus on another habit, build selective discipline on that new habit until you establish that habit, and then move forward and on and on. This is how straightforward it can be, guys. So let's break this down a little bit further. Going back to Michael Phelps. So he was apparently a boy of no focus, no discipline, diagnosed with ADHD, was told he'd never be able to focus on anything. Flash forward to Beijing when he becomes the most decorated Olympian of all time. What did he do? Well, basically, he selectively developed discipline on his one thing, which was swimming. That one thing, he swam 7 days a week, 365 days a year, sometimes up to 6 hours a day in the pool. Basically, his thought on this was, hey, if I swim every day, including Sundays, that Sunday gives me an extra day a week, giving me a 52-day advantage over my competition. He selectively focused on that, establishing that habit, and then maintaining that habit, and the results have spoken for themselves. Now, the success from developing a certain habit in a case like this is pretty obvious, but what's not so obvious is the windfall of other successful habits that automatically establish themselves once you've established a positive habit. What do I mean by this? Well, think about it. If you have a habit that you're trying to develop and you know, for example, I have to swim every single day for 4 hours a day in order for me to be selectively disciplined in that area, develop that habit and establish that habit because my goal is to become the best swimmer in the world, right? Now, what have you done for yourself? You've actually simplified your life because you know you have to be disciplined selectively in that particular area. You now know no matter what happens in my life, every single day, I'm going to swim at least 4 to 6 hours a day. And my life is now simpler. It's now more clear. It's now more straightforward. And you're more likely to resist distractions along the way. In essence, you know what you need to do well, and you also know what you don't need to do, which is arguably more important because think about how many times you've wanted to pursue a particular habit, create a certain change in your life, but we all get pulled off track by distractions, by temptations, by the next shiny, glittery thing, whatever the case may be. If you know I got to do this thing this day for this many hours, no matter what, you've in essence put on the blinders, focusing on that one thing, minimizing distraction, making your life more simple and more clear. Now, remember, the right habit goes a long way, and habits are only hard at the beginning. If you can remember this and keep this in mind, it will most likely allow you and propel you to move forward with any given task, understanding it's most likely temporary, and once you get to that establishment point, it's going to be much easier to maintain. As a matter of fact, it has been shown that established habits take much less energy and focus once they get to that point than they do in that initial ramp up phase. So the learning curve is very steep. Lots of energy, lots of focus in the beginning, but once you get to that establishment point, decreased energy, decreased focus, same results, because that focused discipline has allowed you to establish the habits, which has now upgraded who you are as a human being, optimized you even further. So the question then is, well, how long do you have to wait? How long do you have to really focus your discipline to achieve and establish a habit? Well, the older literature, if you look at this, so researchers at the University of College of London in 2009 actually looked specifically at this question. The question was, how long does it take to establish a new habit? They were looking for when habits became more automated and were more established, where the participants then just had automatic kind of habitual action around a habit. When 95% of the participants had that, that was considered to be an establishment point. Now, I'm sure many of us have heard the number 21 days. Now, the number 21 days or 3 weeks was initially thought to be how long it took to develop a habit. And that was really thrown around more in kind of self-help circles and things of that nature, not necessarily based on a lot of data. But this particular study that I'm referring to in 2009 and a lot of other data really kind of focuses on a different number, and that number is 66 days. It actually takes about 66 days on average to establish a habit, which then allows you to move forward to something else. So how can we use this information to our advantage? Well, if we know it takes 66 days, and by the way, the range on that was anywhere from 18 days to 254 days in that that study group to develop the habit. But if we know on average it takes 66 days, so call it just over 2 months, now we have a target, guys. And if you have a target and a goal, it's much easier to tell yourself, I can do this thing for 2 months on a regular, consistent basis, focusing my discipline on this one particular habit in order for me to establish the habit and optimize and level up myself to move on to the next thing. Now you have a goal. 66 days, so call it 70 days just to be safe. If you can focus on any task you're trying to do for 70 days, the chances are you can establish this as a habit and you can move forward and optimize to the next thing. How can you do that? Jerry Seinfeld has a great method on this. He calls it his Xing out method. He would take a calendar, put it on the wall, and every day, in his case, he would do a stand-up, or he would write a new joke, or he would kind of do something related to his art and his craft of comedy. He would put a big X across that date. And day after day, he would just put a big X across the day as it passes. And he would tell other comedians that he was mentoring when they would ask him, how do I become like you, Jerry Seinfeld? How do I get as successful and established as you? And his answer was what I just told you. Plus, he would simply say, don't break the trend. You're creating a chain of X's. Don't break the chain. So for you out there, if you know it takes about 66 days to establish any habit, and now you know a great, simple, cheap, inexpensive way to pursue it, simply mark out an X on every single day that you do that habit that you told yourself you're going to do, and just count to 66. It's that simple, guys. And once you get to that point, the likelihood of you establishing that habit is extremely high. This is based on scientific data, which will then allow you to decrease your energy and focus on that particular habit, put that into your new armamentarium on who you are, and move on to the next. Now, this is interesting as well. Megan Oten and Ken Cheng, who are two Australian researchers, have also looked at this phenomenon, and they've also discovered something called a halo effect. Now, in this study, students who had developed and established a successful habit also had surrounding positive halo effect. Things like less impulsivity, less spending, less reactivity, less stress, better dietary habits, less alcohol, less substance abuse, fewer hours watching TV, and even fewer dirty dishes, guys. So the halo effect, which we don't talk about much about establishing a habit, is almost like adding and establishing other peripheral habits that only help to optimize and accelerate you even further without you even trying. So sustain the discipline to establish your one primary habit. I'm going to say that again. Sustain the discipline to establish your one primary habit. Focus in on that one primary habit, that one thing that you want to focus in on. And in addition to that, automatically, the halo effect dictates you're probably going to develop a bunch of other habits that will be established around this that are only going to optimize you and help you succeed even further. And the key to this is to develop the right habit. So developing and establishing the right habit will allow all of these things that we've talked about today to happen. So guys, let's talk about some rituals and routines as we always do. So rituals and routines around this one will really focus on the most important components, which is number one, be selectively disciplined. Find that one major habit, that one right habit, that one primary habit for you, and be selectively disciplined on that particular habit. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds, for example, that one habit might be to track your macronutrients every single day, to dial in your diet, for example. If your goal is to increase muscle mass, that one habit might be to work out every single day once you develop your workout schedule and routine, and on and on. This can be applied professionally, this can be applied personally, etc. So find that one particular habit and really zero in on that habit and focus on just that habit. Number two, understand and remember it is most likely going to be temporary in respect to energy and focus required. Research spans anywhere from 18 days to over 200 days. 21 days is not actually the right answer. The most appropriate answer is really 66 days. So you know for 66 days, if you focus on this one particular habit, most likely it's going to become established, thereby requiring less focus and less energy moving forward. And finally, number three, build one habit at a time. time. It's very difficult, I speak from personal experience, to get so distracted that you're trying to do a million things at once and you end up doing nothing well. So build that one habit at a time. Stay super focused on it for 66 days. Yes, other things are going to have to wait. Yes, other things are going to start building up on the side and it may stress you out. Just get used to it. Yes, you also know this is only going to be for 66 days or so, and you can establish that habit, decreasing your energy expenditure and then moving on to the next. Now, doing this will automatically keep you resilient. Not only are you going to develop, conquer, and establish the habit that you've been focused on, but you're going to, with the halo effect, most likely develop other habits as well around this that are only positive. Like we said in that Australian research, maybe you're going to notice you're eating better. Maybe your workouts are automatically going to be better. Alcohol and substance abuse are automatically going to go down. Maybe your stress is going to improve as well, because we also know if you're focusing on that one habit, your life is more simple and more clear and more straightforward, and you're less prone to distraction. So the halo effect is going to come into this as well. And the halo effect, in addition to developing that habit, will keep you resilient. All of this together will keep you robust. How do we define robust? Becoming the most powerful version of yourself. And you do that by becoming optimized. In a case like this, how do you do that? You do that by developing that one particular habit, focusing in on that and only that for 66 days, allowing the halo effect to take place, decrease energy and expenditure once you've established that habit, and then moving forward to the next, and on and on. But the way to really do this, guys, in summary, focus on that one habit, give it 66 to 70 days, and watch the halo effect automatically help you become resilient. So guys, I hope this was helpful for you. This is very fundamental stuff we've talked about today. It can be applied in every aspect of your life. And remember, the best time to do something was yesterday. The second best time is today. Don't look back tomorrow with regret. Take one small step today to keep yourself maximally optimized. Thank you for watching the Dr. Akash Show.